Do you want to turn the tables and make the narcissist in your life start fearing you and finally respect you? What you're about to hear sounds almost impossible, but it's fully confirmed by Sigmund Freud's research on the human psyche. If, for months or years, you've felt manipulated, controlled, if your self-esteem has been systematically destroyed by a toxic person, this moment will change everything forever. The truth is that narcissists feed off your weakness. They need your fear, your desperate need for acceptance, your emotional reactions. This is their nourishment, their drug, their source of power. But today, you'll discover 9 deadly effective strategies that will completely reverse this dynamic. Freud discovered something fascinating in his work with the most difficult cases of narcissism. He noticed that every narcissist has one fundamental weakness, a mortal fear of losing control over their victim. And this very fear will become your greatest weapon. What you're about to learn isn't theory. These are practically proven techniques that have already helped thousands of people free themselves from toxic bonds. But warning, these strategies are so powerful, they can completely change the dynamics of your relationship in just a few days. Prepare for a transformation that will not only free you from manipulation, but will make you someone the narcissist will have to respect. Someone who will never again be a victim. When a narcissist attacks you verbally, criticizes, humiliates, or tries to provoke you, your first reaction is probably defense, making excuses, crying, or anger. This is exactly what they expect. Your emotional reaction is fuel for their ego, confirmation that they still have power over you. But imagine this scene. The narcissist throws their typical venomous comment, tries to humiliate you, maybe even does it in front of other people, and you simply look at them calmly, maybe with a slight smile, and say nothing. Absolutely nothing. You stay there in silence. Breathe calmly and simply observe them. This silence works on the narcissist like a blow straight to the heart of their ego. Why? Because the narcissist feeds on reaction. They need your anger, your tears, your desperate explanations. This is their drug. When they don't receive this, their entire manipulation system starts to fall apart. Freud noticed that when confronted with silence, the narcissist begins to experience something they don't know: helplessness. They try to provoke even more, but the harder they try, the more ridiculous they look. Eventually, they quiet down themselves because they have nothing left to fight. By practicing this technique, you show the narcissist, without words, you no longer have power over me. Your words no longer hurt me. I'm no longer your emotional toy. Next time when the narcissist tries to attack you, simply breathe deeply, look them calmly in the eyes, and maintain absolute silence. Watch how their confidence begins to crumble, how desperately they try to elicit any reaction from you. What city are you watching us from today? I'm curious how far these revolutionary discoveries reach. This silence is the first step to reclaiming your power. But this is just the beginning. The next technique is even more devastating for the narcissist. There's one phrase that Freud considered kryptonite for the narcissist. When you say it with absolute calm and firmness, a real catastrophe happens in the narcissist's head. This phrase is, "This no longer works for me." For years, the narcissist has gotten used to you being predictable. That you'll beg, make excuses, try to convince them, fight for their attention. They feed off your emotional dependency, your need for their acceptance. This is their source of power over you. But when you suddenly say these words and simply walk away without explaining yourself, without negotiation, without giving second chances, their whole world collapses. For the first time in their life, they encounter someone who won't play their game. The secret lies in not getting into discussions after saying this phrase. Don't explain why you feel this way. Don't try to convince them. Simply leave. This shows the narcissist that you're no longer their emotional puppet. Freud observed that narcissists most easily manipulate those who seem weak and dependent. When you suddenly become a person who has clear boundaries and isn't afraid to defend them, the narcissist begins to perceive you as a threat to their dominant position. After saying this phrase, you can expect desperate attempts to regain control. The narcissist may try love bombing, may throw threats, may try manipulation through guilt. These are all signs of desperation, proof that the strategy works and that they're losing control over you. Remember Freud's words, "He who controls his reactions controls his reality." When you stop being reactive, you become active. You take control of the situation, but that's not all yet. There's a technique waiting for you that Freud called the psychological shield. Narcissists are masters at finding your weak points. They know exactly which words will hurt you, which memories will cause pain, which complexes to use against you. For years, they've built a map of your vulnerabilities and use it like a weapon. But Freud discovered a fascinating defensive mechanism in the human psyche. He called it emotional sublimation. In practice, this means creating an invisible shield that makes every manipulation attempt simply bounce off you. This shield is a state of mind where every narcissist's attack stops affecting you personally. When they try to criticize you, you mentally tell yourself, "This isn't about me. This is about their pain. This is about their desperation." When they try to humiliate you, you see in this their own insecurity and fear. The key is understanding that the narcissist's aggression is always a projection of their own suffering. When they scream at you, they're screaming from pain. When they put you down, they're trying to raise their self-worth at the expense of yours. The invisible shield doesn't mean ignoring their behavior. It means stopping taking it personally. This is a fundamental change in perspective that protects your psyche from their toxins. Practical technique. When the narcissist attacks you, mentally repeat the mantra, "This isn't about me. This is about their pain." This simple phrase creates an emotional barrier between their aggression and your sense of worth. The narcissist, seeing that their attacks have stopped working, begins to feel helpless. And a helpless narcissist is a narcissist who begins to respect you, not out of love, but out of fear of your newly discovered strength. Freud used to say, "The greatest power belongs to one who doesn't need to use it." When you become impenetrable to manipulation, your strength becomes obvious. But the next technique can completely reverse the roles in your relationship. Narcissists live in a world of delusions about themselves. They see themselves as perfect, misunderstood geniuses, and attribute all problems to others. But what happens when they suddenly face a mirror that shows them the harsh truth about their behavior? Freud used a technique in therapy that he called the psychoanalytic mirror. It involved reflecting back to the patient their own words and behaviors so they could see themselves from the outside. In a relationship with a narcissist, this technique becomes a deadly weapon. The mirror of truth consists of calmly, matter-of-factly, describing the narcissist's behavior without emotion, without judgment, only dry facts. This is devastating for the narcissist because they can't defend against reality. Instead of, "You're horrible, you always criticize me," say, "I noticed that in the last 10 minutes you've negatively commented on my appearance 4 times. Instead of, "You never listen to me," say, "I see that you interrupt me every time I try to express my opinion." This technique takes away the narcissist's ability to provoke an emotional reaction from you. They can't scream at logic. They can't manipulate facts. They face the dry reality of their behavior. Freud noticed that narcissists are like emotional vampires. They feed on others' energy. But the mirror of truth reflects their own toxicity back to them, which is unbearable for them. They can't stand confrontation with who they really are. When you consistently use this technique, the narcissist begins to avoid confrontation with you. For the first time in their life, they're afraid of meeting their own truth reflected in your words. This technique not only protects you from manipulation, but also shows the narcissist that you've seen through them. And this awakens in them a primitive fear of losing control. But the real power lies in the next strategy, which Freud considered the most effective against narcissism. For a narcissist, there's nothing worse than complete indifference. This, literally, destroys their psyche because it means they've stopped being the center of your emotional universe. The narcissist can deal with your anger. They even derive pleasure from it. They can bear your pain. It confirms their power, but they can't bear being completely irrelevant to you. This is their worst nightmare. True indifference doesn't consist of pretending you don't care. It's a deep state of mind where the narcissist truly stops having emotional significance for you. Their opinions, their attacks, their manipulation attempts become as important to you as the weather in another country. When you achieve true indifference, you stop checking their social media profiles. Their messages don't evoke any emotions in you. You can talk about them like a stranger. Their presence doesn't affect your mood. Freud noticed that narcissists instinctively sense indifference and react to it like animals to mortal danger. First, they try to intensify their actions, then they panic, and finally, they give up. When the narcissist understands that you're truly indifferent, they begin to respect you for a simple reason. They're afraid they might lose you completely. And for a narcissist, losing a source of narcissistic energy is psychological death. The path to true indifference can take months. It's a process of gradually withdrawing your emotional energy from the relationship with the narcissist and investing it in yourself. True indifference isn't hatred, it's peace. It's freedom from their influence on your emotions. But there's still one more technique that Freud considered fundamental for psychological survival. A narcissist is like water. They'll find every crack in your boundaries and get through it. They'll test your limits, cross them millimeter by millimeter, until they completely overpower you. This is their natural survival strategy, their way of maintaining control over their environment. Freud wrote about the necessity of establishing psychological boundaries of the ego as the foundation of a healthy psyche. In the relationship with a narcissist, boundaries aren't a luxury, not an option to consider. It's a matter of psychological survival. It's a clearly defined no that becomes your sacred right, an inviolable code of your dignity. Through years of research, Freud observed how lack of boundaries destroys people in relationships with narcissistic personalities. He saw patients who gradually lost themselves, their values, their identity, because they allowed narcissists to cross successive boundaries. It was like watching the slow dissolution of personality in the acid of manipulation. Unbreachable boundaries are concrete rules that you don't allow anyone to break, regardless of circumstances, regardless of how much the narcissist will try to convince you that you're too harsh, too inflexible, too cruel. This isn't aggression or malice. It's protection of your dignity and mental health from systematic destruction. Imagine your psyche as a house. For years, the narcissist has systematically broken down doors, smashed windows, torn down walls. Boundaries are an alarm system, high fencing, steel doors. It's saying, this far and not one step further. Concrete examples of unbreachable boundaries. I don't accept yelling in conversation with me, and when you raise your voice, I leave. I don't discuss my decisions after midnight because that's my rest time. I don't tolerate comments about my appearance, body, or personal choices. I won't explain my feelings because they are valid and justified. Each of these boundaries must be formulated clearly, without ambiguity, without leaving space for interpretation. The narcissist is a master at finding loopholes, at twisting words, at creating gray zones where they can operate. When you establish a boundary, prepare for real war. The narcissist will first try to test it gently, like a thief checking if a window is locked. Then they may become even more aggressive, may try emotional manipulation, may even pretend they've changed and now understand. All of this is testing, systematic checking whether your boundaries are truly unbreachable or just a theatrical gesture. Freud noticed that narcissists have incredible intuition in sensing weakness. If you give in even once, if you allow a boundary to be crossed even once, because this time the situation is exceptional, the narcissist will remember this and use it against you in the future. Key principles of establishing boundaries. The boundary must be clear, concrete, and leave no room for interpretation. You must be ready to enforce it even when it hurts you, even when the narcissist tries to convince you that you're cruel. Don't explain your boundaries. Don't negotiate them. Don't offer compromises. Simply establish them and stick to them. Be consistent regardless of circumstances, the narcissist's mood or family situation. Freud noticed a fascinating phenomenon he called respect based on fear. When a narcissist encounters truly unbreachable boundaries, their aggression paradoxically decreases. Why? Because they finally encounter something they can't control, manipulate, or break, and this awakens in them primitive respect mixed with fear. A narcissist only respects what they can't control. When your boundaries become truly unbreachable, like the Berlin Wall separating their toxicity from your peace, they begin to treat you as their equal, not out of love, not out of understanding, but out of pure fear of your newly discovered strength. Remember that establishing boundaries is a process, not a one-time event. It's daily work on yourself, a daily choice between your peace and their comfort, and always choose yourself. But there's still one more fundamental transformation waiting for you that can completely change your life. Narcissists can only manipulate those who doubt themselves. This is a fundamental truth that Freud discovered studying hundreds of cases of toxic relationships. When your self-confidence becomes unshakable, their entire arsenal of manipulation becomes useless, like swords aimed at steel armor. The narcissist feeds on your doubts like a vampire on blood. When you question yourself, your decisions, your worth, your right to happiness, you give them the strongest weapon against yourself. This is their favorite tactic: make you doubt your perception of reality, your feelings, your right to be respected. For years, the narcissist has systematically undermined your self-confidence. They may have told you that you're too sensitive, that you're overreacting, that you're misinterpreting their behavior. They may have compared you to others, undermined your achievements, trivialized your feelings. All of this had one goal: to make you an insecure person who's easy to control. But unshakable self-confidence isn't arrogance, not pride, not elevating yourself above others. It's deep, calm knowledge of your worth that doesn't depend on other people's opinions, especially the narcissists. It's quiet conviction that you deserve respect, love, and to be treated with dignity. Freud wrote about this as ego integrity, a state where a person knows who they are, what they want, and what they deserve. This is a psychological state where external attacks can't disturb your inner peace and certainty. When you have unshakable self-confidence, something magical happens. You stop seeking validation from the narcissist. Their praise stops pleasing you because you know it's manipulative. Their criticism stops hurting you because you know it stems from their own problems, not your imperfections. You no longer explain your decisions because you know you have the right to make choices about your life. You don't let them define your worth because your self-esteem no longer depends on their moods and manipulations. You can say no without guilt because you understand that your boundaries are important and justified. Your happiness stops depending on their opinion, their approval, their presence in your life. This is true freedom. Awareness that you're a complete, valuable person, regardless of what the narcissist thinks about you. Freud noticed that narcissists instinctively respect those who are self-confident. This isn't respect out of love or understanding. It's respect out of fear, primitive fear of someone they can't control. The narcissist fears a self-confident person because their entire manipulation strategy is based on causing insecurity in the victim. Building unshakable self-confidence is a process that requires time and daily work on yourself. You must learn to celebrate your small victories, acknowledge your achievements, remember your strengths. You must stop seeking validation from the narcissist and start seeking it within yourself. Every day repeat to yourself, I am a valuable person, I deserve respect. My feelings are important. My needs are justified. I don't need anyone's permission to be myself. Surround yourself with people who support you, who see good in you, who respect your boundaries. Avoid those who try to diminish you, who question your decisions, who make you feel worse after meeting with them. Remember your successes, even the small ones. Keep an achievement journal. Write down moments when you handled a difficult situation, when you stood your ground, when you didn't let yourself be manipulated. This will be your proof that you're stronger than you think. When your self-confidence becomes unshakable, the narcissist finds themselves in a position they've never known before. They'll have to respect you because they can no longer control you. They'll have to treat you as their equal, not as their emotional toy. This is the moment when you reclaim your power. This is the moment when you stop being a victim and become a person who decides about their own life. But the last technique you're about to learn is a real game changer, a strategy that can completely transform your life. This is the hardest but absolutely most effective strategy in the entire arsenal of techniques against narcissism. The narcissist wants you to remain in their orbit forever, to be available 24 hours a day as a source of narcissistic energy, as an audience for their performances, as an object of their control. Complete withdrawal means ending this game once and for all. Freud, in his last works, wrote about this as psychological castration of the narcissist. This is the most brutal technique, but at the same time the most effective because it strikes at the very heart of narcissistic need. The need for an audience. The need to be at the center of someone's world. Complete withdrawal isn't ignoring in anger. It's not revenge. It's not an attempt to hurt the narcissist. It's a conscious, calm decision to end emotional involvement in the relationship with the narcissist. It's understanding at the deepest level that you no longer have to participate in their toxic games, that you have a choice. For years, you were like an actor in a theater, where the narcissist was the director, screenwriter, and main star all at once. Your role was always subordinated to their needs. You were supposed to be the audience for their monologues. You were supposed to react to their provocations. You were supposed to serve as a source of attention and energy. Complete withdrawal means leaving this theater forever. When the narcissist tries to provoke you with their classic attack on your self-esteem, and you simply continue your life as if nothing happened, this literally breaks them. When they send you a message full of manipulative nostalgia, I miss you, remember how good we had it, and you respond politely but coldly, I'm glad everything's fine with you, without any emotional involvement, this clearly shows them that the game is over. Freud observed that narcissists live in constant fear of abandonment, but paradoxically are incapable of creating a real bond with another person. When they're finally truly abandoned by someone who has completely withdrawn emotionally, they experience something like psychological breakdown. Complete withdrawal manifests on many levels. On an emotional level, you stop feeling anything in relation to the narcissist, neither anger, nor love, nor frustration, nor longing. Their presence in your life becomes as significant as the presence of a stranger on the street. On a behavioral level, you stop reacting to their provocations. Stop replying to their messages with emotional involvement. Stop checking their social media profiles. Stop asking friends about their life. On a mental level, you stop thinking about them, analyzing their behaviors, wondering about their motives. You stop planning what you'll say to them at the next meeting, stop practicing conversations with them in your head. This withdrawal doesn't mean being cruel or inhuman. You can still be polite when you meet them. You can respond to their message if necessary, but you do it with the same emotional neutrality with which you respond to a bank clerk or a store salesperson. The narcissist, being a master at sensing other people's emotional states, will immediately detect this change. And this scares them more than anger, more than screaming, more than crying, because anger means they still have power over you. Complete withdrawal means they no longer have that power. They may try all their tricks to get you back into the game. They may try love bombing, shower you with compliments and promises of change. They may pretend to be sick, may try to evoke guilt. They may try through mutual friends, may spread stories about you to provoke your reaction. But if you're consistent in your withdrawal, if you don't let yourself be drawn into any of these games, they'll eventually give up, because a narcissist doesn't have infinite energy. When they constantly invest it in attempts to regain your attention and receive nothing in return, they finally have to find a new source of narcissistic nourishment. Complete withdrawal is the greatest gift you can give yourself. It's freedom from their influence on your life, from their ability to hurt you, from their power over your emotions. It's regaining control over your own emotional life. This process can take months. It can be painful because it often means mourning for who you thought the narcissist was, for the illusion of the relationship you imagined. But this temporary pain is the price for long-term freedom. But true liberation is still ahead of you. In the last chapter, you'll discover what life looks like on the other side of this transformation. Congratulations! You've just gone through a complete transformation that will change your life forever. You've learned the 9 most powerful weapons against narcissistic manipulation, which were developed by Sigmund Freud himself in his pioneering research on the human psyche. These aren't ordinary techniques. These are powerful psychological tools that for decades have helped people free themselves from toxic bonds. Each of these strategies is a piece of the puzzle that makes up your new, powerful personality. A personality that the narcissist can no longer manipulate, control, or destroy. A personality that awakens in them respect based on fear of losing control over you. This is a fundamental change. From victim, you become a person who dictates the terms of interaction. For years, the narcissist built their power over you systematically, like an architect building a prison. Every attack on your self-esteem, every manipulation, every attempt to isolate you from loved ones, these were bricks in the wall that surrounded you. Today, you learned not only to blow up this wall, but to build your own fortress that the narcissist cannot demolish. Your 9 weapons are stone silence, destroying their ego, the magic phrase, "This no longer works for me," which they cannot question, the invisible shield of indifference, protecting you from their attacks, the mirror of truth reflecting their toxicity back at them, absolute indifference as the ultimate psychological weapon, unbreachable boundaries protecting your dignity from their invasion, unshakable self-confidence as armor against all their attempts to undermine your worth, strategic withdrawal from their destructive games, and finally, complete withdrawal as ultimate liberation from their influence. Freud used to say, "To be conscious is to be free." Today, you became conscious of the mechanisms of narcissistic manipulation at a level you didn't possess before. Now you know how to recognize the first signals of manipulation, how to defend yourself before the attack reaches its goal, how to regain your power in any situation, how to make the narcissist start respecting you instead of treating you like their property. This knowledge isn't just theory. These are practical tools you can apply today. But remember that true transformation requires time and consistency. The narcissists built their control over you for years, so they won't give up without a fight. Prepare for the fact that when they start losing control over you, they may intensify their actions. This is normal. and paradoxically means the strategy is working. These are their last, desperate attempts to regain power over you. They may become even more aggressive, may try new forms of manipulation, may even try to use mutual friends or family members against you. This is the moment when your determination will be truly tested, when you'll be tempted to return to old patterns, to give in for peace, to believe in more promises of change. But remember, narcissists don't change. They may change tactics, may temporarily reduce the intensity of their attacks, but their fundamental nature remains the same. Your new goal isn't to completely eliminate the narcissist from your life, because that's not always possible or practical. Your goal is to transform this toxic relationship into something that can no longer hurt you. It's taking control of your emotional life, regardless of whether the narcissist is present in it or not. Today, you begin a new life, the life of a person who knows their worth and doesn't let anyone question it, the life of a human being who establishes boundaries and consistently defends them, the life of a person whom the narcissist must respect because they can no longer control you. You are now armed with the most powerful psychological techniques ever developed against narcissism. These strategies have been tested through decades of Freud's clinical practice and thousands of his successors. These aren't empty theories. These are battle-tested tools that have changed the lives of countless people. Use them wisely, use them consistently, and you'll see how your life changes for the incomparably better. Remember that each of these techniques requires practice. Don't expect perfection from day one. Be patient with yourself, but at the same time determined in pursuing your freedom. Most importantly, understand that this transformation isn't a fight with the narcissist. It's a fight for yourself. It's not an attempt to change them, because that's impossible. It's an attempt to reclaim yourself, your power, your right to happiness and peace. Freud, in his last works, wrote that man's greatest victory is victory over his own fear. Today, you conquered fear of the narcissist, fear of their reaction, fear of loneliness, fear that maybe you're wrong after all. Freedom awaits. Time to claim it. Write in the comments, "I choose freedom." I want to know who among us is ready for this life change. Your transformation begins today, at this moment, when you make the decision that you'll never again allow the narcissist to control your life. Remember, you deserve love, respect, and happiness. The narcissist tried to convince you otherwise, but now you know the truth. Now you are free.